Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. We are coming at you live on location from the monastery in Mount Adams, world headquarters for Towne Properties. I'm here this morning with Mr. Bob Wahlke, president of Towne Properties, and I'm so excited for this interview. First, it's my very first time visiting this beautiful building. I've just gotten the history, and I'm going to ask you to share that in just a moment. But what I'm very excited about today is to announce the outcome of our Night Out for Outreach event, which was held last Saturday. We raised over $150,000 for the Outreach Foundation, and we are super excited to announce that for 2020, Mr. Bob Wahlke and Janet Chiarella from Towne Properties are the co-chairs for the 2020 event. So thank you very much, Bob.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It should be another exciting event.
I hear that you're going to maybe shake it up a little bit.
We are.
Going to look at some new venues.
We are looking at new venues. We'll move on to a bigger and better location, hopefully.
Well, we are very excited, and it just keeps getting better every year. So looking forward to what you and Janet put together. On behalf of the association and all of us at the association, thank you so much for agreeing to co-chair. I know that's a big undertaking.
Well, it'll be fun, and hopefully we'll put together a nice team that will pull it off again and exceed our $150,000 plateau this year.
There you go.
Maybe we can get it to 200,000.
Wow, that sounds like a great goal. We're behind you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you agreeing to not only be here for that exciting announcement, but you're the feature of our weekly member spotlight. And I have been in the business for approaching 25 years. And I've never had the privilege to sit down and speak to you like this. So this is very exciting for me. You've been a face of our association. You're a past president of the board of directors. And you've been at Towne for, I think, your entire career.
Almost.
Almost.
For the past 41 years.
Wow. Well, there might be a few people out in Facebook land who do not have the privilege of knowing the history of your career. Would you take a moment and just introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about who you are and how you got into the business?
Sure. Born and raised here in Cincinnati, graduate of Anderson High School and then at the University of Cincinnati, and then a master's degree at Xavier University, so I'm a hometown boy.
Yeah.
Have a family, married, my wife Sharon, 46 years.
Wow.
And have two wonderful sons, Chris and Kevin, and 5 grandchildren.
Wow,
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yes.
That certainly keeps you busy on the weekends,
Yes,
I'm sure.
Yes, it does, yeah. And we love having them over to the house. But anyway, a little bit about my business background. I did start out with an insurance company in the construction and land development business, which led to another job. I left that company and went with Hillenbrand Industries for a year in Batesville, Indiana. My wife hated living in Batesville, Indiana, so we came back to Cincinnati, and I was asked about my background in construction and land development, which is what Towne Properties does.
Right.
And I joined the company in 1978 as the assistant controller on the development side. And a few years later, the head of our property management business decided to leave along with a couple other vice presidents. So we were kind of decimated at the time in the property management side of the business. So I raised my hand and told Neil Bortz and Marvin Rosenberg, who are partners and own Towne Properties, that I'd like to take a shot at running the property management business. Back then it was much, much smaller than it is today. And they said, okay, we'll give you 1 year. That was 35 years ago.
Wow.
So I've had 35 one-year contracts ever since.
There you go. What is it that's kept you coming back year after year? What do you love so much about this industry?
It's the people. The people that not only work here at Towne Properties, we've assembled a great team of really a lot of our associates here at Towne Properties have been with the company, some of them longer than me, but a lot of them 20, 25, 30, 35 years in the business. We, like I said, have a wonderful team here, but I also, if you're in the property management business, you have to really like working with people. We manage buildings. The buildings don't talk. It's the people that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis and put out fires and solve problems and what have you. And every day's different, and that's what makes it fun to come to work.
Well, having been in the business for, I'm sure, half of your life or more, what kind of stories do you have? What's one of your favorite property management stories or most memorable one that comes to mind?
I think what comes to mind are the disasters that happen in our business,
Right.
and the rallying of our troops to put out the disasters. We just this past year had a horrible tornado hit our Dayton properties, one of which was about a 520 unit apartment community. 300 of the units were destroyed.
Wow.
I was just up there the other day. They're going to be bulldozed. Most of them are going to be bulldozed.
Wow.
But we were there on the scene the morning after when people literally had no place to live, and just trying to manage the disaster and help people find new homes and what have you was really a wonderful experience, and something I'll never forget. So that comes to mind first.
Yeah.
Really.
I couldn't agree more, and I think having the opportunity to be so intimate with your customers, I mean, what's more intimate than where you live, and having experiences like that has to be very rewarding when you work as hard as you do.
It certainly was, yes, and is. Yes.
Yeah. So this is my first time seeing your office, and I asked you earlier, like, how do you get any work done with these amazing views? And I looked around the building a little bit and went to the event center. Tell us a little bit about the history of the building that you were in.
Well, going back to the beginning, this location was an observatory that was owned by the city of Cincinnati back in the 1860s. Unfortunately, the city became too smoggy to have an observatory here on top of Mount Adams, so the observatory moved to Mount Lookout, where it still exists today. Get the name Mount Lookout.
Yeah.
And then the city leased this building, and it was expanded somewhat to the Catholic Church, and it became a monastery, and they leased it for 99 years. And in 1975, I believe the year was, the lease was up, and the monks moved out, and the building became vacant, and we acquired it a few years later, and it's now our corporate headquarters.
It's beautiful.
Thank
What
you.
a great perk to work here.
Well, it's also where our company started. Neil Bortz and his partner Marvin Rosenberg bought a couple buildings on St. Gregory Street and converted them to apartments, and we still own and manage those buildings today, but the company grew from there here in Mount Adams, so it was appropriate that we return to the Hill,
Right.
and still reside here.
I don't want to throw you. I didn't ask this question earlier, but about how many employees does Towne have?
About 850.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. We're very
Scattered
well
all over the
represented.
place.
Yeah, very well represented in the GCNKAA. Obviously, Judd Osherwitz is the president of the board of directors now, and I co-chair the social media committee with your Carrie Riley, and so many different people are on different committees and working hard in the association. So Towne is one of the most prominent names in the city, and it's an honor to be here with you today.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, do you mind if we shift gears a little bit and get to know you a little bit more on a personal level?
Sure.
So you told us about your family, which sounds amazing, and keeping you busy on your toes. What do you like to do in your spare time?
Spare time, I play golf
Yeah.
once or twice a week, generally once a week. I love to run. I've
Yeah.
been running for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
My wife originally told me that I was starting to look like the Pillsbury Doughboy, so
Wow.
I said, I'm not going to do that
No,
anymore.
ma'am.
So I went out, and I couldn't make it from my house down to the stop sign, but I started out and I've been running ever since.
Wow. And I asked you earlier, what's the longest distance that you ran? And you said?
Several marathons and a couple distances beyond that.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was your favorite marathon that you've run?
New York City Marathon.
Wow.
It's the largest spectator event in the world. Over 1 million people line the streets in New York while you're running the marathon, and it ends in Central Park, and it's very, very exciting to run that race. Yeah.
Do you have any runs on the horizon? Anything you're training for?
No, I'm just getting over an injury right now.
Okay.
First time I've had to take a little time off in all those years.
Yeah.
A little foot injury, but we'll get back to it.
You'll be back. You'll bounce back.
Yeah, we will.
We always have the 5K for outreach, and I'm sure you've done that over the years.
No.
No? 5K not worth your time?
No, I hate to admit this, but that's always the same weekend, and I've talked to the committee before.
Right.
That I have a standing golf outing in Arizona that we go on with the guys, and it's always that same
That's
Saturday.
funny.
So I have never run it.
Well, as
I
long as it's a
apologize,
legitimate
but we support
reason.
it. We support it.
Yes, you do. What's your favorite course to play?
We're Four Bridges, which
Okay.
is, we have an apartment community
Yeah.
there. And,
I live out that way. I live just north of Liberty Township
Oh,
in
okay.
Monroe. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, are you a reader? And if so, what's one of the last books you've read?
Um, I've read a few books. I'm not an avid reader.
Right.
But A Walk in the Woods was one of the most recent books that I've read, and it's about a journey through the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it based on a
It's
true
something.
story?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. It's something that I would like to do one of these days. is
Right.
Walk the Appalachian Trail. I have a brother-in-law that did it,
Oh, wow.
and I've always been envious.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Sounds like a bucket list item.
It's a bucket list item. May not be able to do the whole thing, but maybe
Right.
parts of it. Yeah.
Well, what about television? What's one of your favorite TV shows?
I love Survivor.
Yeah?
Yeah. I wish at one time I could have been on the show.
Yeah.
I'm a little too old to go on it now. It's
What would have been your one item to take?
oh boy, that's
That's a good question.
that
I
is a
have no
good-
idea.
I had never thought about that,
Yeah?
so I don't have an answer.
I haven't watched it in a very long time, but when it first came out, I was very into that. There were viewing parties, and we had an event at the association. I think it was Wednesday night. Is that the night Survivor's on?
Yes, it is.
And Mark goes, all right, come on, we got to get this started because Survivor's on tonight.
I like it so much that my wife and I took a cruise. We flew to Australia and then took a cruise to Fiji. And that's,
Oh,
that's where
wow.
they filmed the show.
Yeah.
And I saw where
Yeah.
they filmed the show.
Oh, wow.
And it's not as remote as you think it is.
Oh, probably not. I bet. They would have to have, I'm sure, accommodations for all of the
They
cameramen. and
do.
women.
They live in a resort.
Oh, I bet.
They
Wow.
do. Yeah.
Well, what about sports? Being a hometown boy, I'm sure you follow Cincinnati sports.
Xavier basketball.
Xavier basketball.
It's a little tough to watch the Bengals right now. And,
It's not even
and
funny
the
anymore,
Reds.
is it?
Yeah.
Right. It's funny because I cannot get into college football for whatever reason. I think it's because when I was at Xavier, they didn't have a football team yet, and so it was all basketball, and that's all I ever cared about. So it's nice to meet a fellow Xavier alum and one who loves the basketball team. What about a favorite concert that you've attended?
I think probably the best was the Eagles
Yeah?
concert. This is several years ago when they first came to town at Riverbend.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to postpone it because Don Henley had diverticulitis, so
Oh,
they had to
no.
postpone it from the fall to the spring. So
Yeah.
it was an April concert, which I don't think they even have them anymore.
Yeah.
And they opened up with Hotel California.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, where's this concert going?
Seriously. What do
But
you
it was a
close with?
it was a tremendous concert.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
There's not much better of a venue that I've seen than Riverbend. It's just fantastic.
It is.
Well, so I love asking this question because it's fun to hear everyone's answer. But if you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
I would be a monkey.
Why would you be a monkey?
We've taken several trips with some of the guys that may be watching this, Jay Ingram and Roy Wergers and Joe Michelle, to Costa Rica. We've been down there several times.
Yeah.
And hiked through the jungle and and they've got monkeys down there.
Everywhere.
And the monkeys look like they're having such a good time
Yeah.
swinging from the trees
Right.
and what have you. And
Do
I
they
think
interact with the people? The
They
monkeys?
will.
Yeah.
They will. Yeah.
Well,
The
that's fun.
white-faced monkeys will come down out of the trees if you have food for them, and they'll grab it right out of your hand.
I like that. Well, I've been doing this little interview process for a little over a year now, and no one has said monkey yet, so I like that very much. Well, you kind of shared your random detail about yourself and how you started running. You mentioned that over the time that you've been running, you've logged thousands of miles. I think you said something like 36,000 miles over the years, which is
Yeah.
incredible. Is there any other random detail about yourself that people wouldn't otherwise know?
That's
That you're comfortable sharing. Now that's the key right there.
no, I just pretty much I'm somewhat of a workaholic.
Yeah.
I come to work 5 days a week normally, but a lot of times you'll find me in here on the weekends.
Right.
I'm a grinder,
Yeah.
and I think that is really what the property management business is all about. It's kind of a 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Right.
And if you just keep persevering and liking what you're doing, you'll eventually grow in the business and hopefully reach your dreams and goals. And that's really work and a little bit of golf and running and then the family life.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds like
pretty much it.
an
yeah.
awesome vacation here and there. split in the middle?
Several good vacations.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I'm
I
gonna
love
have to add that
them.
question. Like, what's one of your favorite vacations that you've taken, or do you have a vacation on the horizon?
Next week we're going to Bermuda.
Oh, wow, that's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Yeah, the trips to Costa Rica and the jungle.
Yeah.
I love doing that.
Right.
Australia a couple times if you ever get a chance to go there.
Yeah.
It's more America than America.
Really?
Yes. It really is. It's a very laid back country and it's beautiful.
Wow. I'm adding that question for all future interviewees, just FYI.
Good.
All right. Well, I loved what you were saying about what a grinder you are, and I think that's one of the things that comes to my mind. I've been in the business, my whole career, my whole adult life. I've been in the property management industry, and Towne certainly has the reputation of being hardworking and professional, and just kind of like a culture of excellence. And so I'm sure that is attributed to your being here consistently and setting that example. The last question that I have for you, Bob, is what do you think the folks that have worked with you throughout your career would say about who you are as a professional?
Hopefully they would say that I like to be collaborative and get people involved in decision making. I'm not one that's going to be a dictator and say this is the way we're going to do it. I want everybody to buy in. Mm-hmm. That's what was taught to me by Neil Bortz and Marvin Rosenberg when I first joined the company. They would call me into meetings and ask my opinion, and here I am, brand new in the business. They're asking me my opinion.
Right.
It was shocking, but I really enjoyed it. But it's probably because once I gave them my opinion, if they agreed, then I'd have to do the work.
Right.
But that didn't bother me at all. So really, we've been able to, fortunately, surround ourselves with wonderful, hardworking, energized, and collaborative people within the organization, and everybody on the boat rowing in the right direction, and in the same direction, I should say.
Yeah.
And that's really what keeps me going.
Well,
day in and day out.
we reached out to a few folks here at Towne and asked them to share the answers, and I know you have no idea what they said, but we're going to make a post a little bit later this afternoon and share not only the answers to your interview, but some of the feedback that the folks who have worked with you here at Towne have to say about you as a leader. So I look forward to sharing that with you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure to sit down and get to know you a little bit. Again, you've been a kind of larger than life person in this industry and someone that I've always looked up to, and this company as well. So very happy to have the opportunity. And I wanted to say, it was funny, we walked in this morning, Chris and I, to do this interview, and you're knee deep in a budget review on a Friday morning. So if that doesn't speak to the grind, I don't know what does. So
one more thing to add.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As a past president of the organization, during one of my terms, one of the best things that ever happened during that term was the hiring of Mark Franks.
Oh, wow.
And he's been a wonderful leader of the organization, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank him for everything that he has done.
How nice.
And assembling the great staff we have there today.
Well, wonderful. Our apartment association just reached a milestone under the leadership of your Mr. Oshowitz and Mark Franks and the staff of being 100,000 units strong, which is something to be so very proud of.
Yes.
So, well, thank you again. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Looking forward to the 2020 Night Out for Outreach. So I'm sure we'll see you again and talk to you soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the Weekly Member Spotlight.